Talk about that a lot on the Everyman Show, and we talk about it at Everyman Ministries, where you have broken male culture, where it's strength without character.
Yeah.
There's a feminist reaction to that, which you can't blame the reaction when there's that much suffering and pain, because when there's strength but there's no character behind it, people suffer. So you have a reaction of feminism, but 40 years of aggressive feminism has created not an alpha, but an omega. And this is a different kind of man. You are exactly right. Just as I do all the research and I look at it, this is a person who has other strengths, but that sacrificial mindset, that combat, that kind of battle to die for mindset. That's not the type of guy that's being produced. And so you have strength without character, a reaction, then you have a wave of aggressive feminism that's really messaging that masculinity in the old broken sense is toxic, it's oppressive, but what they're missing is that, hey, there's guys on the front lines like you who are strong, but they have character. They have purpose. They have that, and we need them. And so I see this shift happening where, after decades of aggressive feminism, even women are realizing, where are all the good men?
Yeah.
Where are the strong men? Because I look at you and I say to myself, okay, here's a guy, he's not toxic. He's not oppressive. He's strong. That's why 1,200 guys are going to show up tonight and fill their bellies full of tri-tip and meet you, and they are so deeply interested in your story. So my question is, where does that hunger come from to be great like that?
Yeah. I wish America had a chance to see the kind of men that I've had the chance to serve with. And they're a very small percentage of America, but if America could see that kind of character in a man, that kind of strength, that kind of raw willingness to do whatever it takes for my family and for my way of life, I think America would say, hey, if that's what a good man looks like, I want more of that. Somebody show me some more of that. Unfortunately, they're hidden in the military, not just in the military, some of them in the private sector, some of them in government, but very small percentages. And that's not what America sees. The overwhelming majority of what I see with men in America is, I refer to the emasculation of the American male. Just men who have never been shown how to be a man, or when they try to be a man, somebody slapped them back down and basically didn't allow him to be the kind of man that God called him to be.
That's right.
So I had the privilege of serving right outside of pastor in a church right outside of Fort Benning, Georgia. Fort Benning, Georgia is kind of the epicenter for the Army's infantry, for the Army's tankers, Army Rangers, paratroopers. The Marines have moved a bunch of their armored vehicles training to Fort Benning, Georgia. And I refer to it as, this is the center of the U.S. military's most violent men.
Wow.
And God knows we need violent men in the military.
Right.
So I had the privilege of living in the epicenter of some of the most violent men in America. Wow. But they're also good men who know how to restrain themselves and know how to handle violence and appropriately apply violence when it needs to be applied.
So Jeff, I saw an interview you did at Liberty University, and there was one part where you, the key word here is willingness. In the movie, you get back to the base, and there were a lot of people there that were a little bit freaked out, and they wanted to know why you were different, why they could approach you, why, hey, I gotta talk to you, Jeff, this is freaking me out. Why were you able to do what you did, and where can I get some of that? So I want to talk a little bit more about willingness and why those men were drawn to something that they've never seen before, because we're talking about broken male culture essentially, and the willingness to want to be a better man. So I want you to tell us why those men knew to come to you.
Yeah, I think I can give it to you in two short answers, but they probably need a little bit more explanation. One, I had more combat experience than most guys. I went to Somalia already having been in the invasion of Panama and already been in the in Desert Storm in Kuwait. So by the time I get to Somalia, I'm
Yeah.
24 years old, but I'm considered the old man with lots of combat experience.
Yeah.
Seriously, at 24.
Yeah.
And there are guys that have been in the Army for 20 years that haven't had a bullet fired at them at
That's
this
right.
point. And
Right.
that, for me, that's old hat.
You're it.
I know how to handle myself
Right.
when I'm getting shot at. But secondly, my faith really influenced the way that I fight. And one of the things that I've considered the rest of, invest in the rest of my life in is to say, man, when faith in Jesus Christ is real and it's rock solid, it changes everything. In fact, it changes the way a warrior fights on a battlefield.
Wow.
And I think guys saw that in me, like, okay, combat experience just can't account for the way, here's the truth, the sense of peace that Jeff had when everybody else is going through panic.
Right.
And that peace is not natural. It's actually supernatural, and I can see it. I can hear it in his voice. Okay, he's got something that I want.
There was somebody who wrote on our Facebook, wanted to ask you a question about that. What gave you that peace? What did you feel?
Yeah.
What was the
Yeah.
overwhelming feel? Like, were you warm? Like, was it a Holy Spirit moment where you knew you're going to get back in that Humvee and you're going to go right at it?
So my story from Somalia can basically be narrowed down to this very specific moment in the middle of the battle. I've been there from the start. I'm all the way there to the end, but there's a point a couple of hours into it where I'm 100% certain I'm getting sent back into the city and I'm going to get killed. This is a suicide mission. And I settled my relationship with Jesus Christ at 13 years old. And he radically changed me. I mean, he really settled once and for all. Fear settled once and
Yeah.
for all. The kind
You're
of
locked down
he's made
inside,
me.
yeah.
He's forged me in the man that I became in the Army. And at the moment in Somalia where I was 100% convinced I'm going to die and I'm going to get every one of my men killed, I already had this rock solid faith in my eternity in heaven. So for me, it became a matter of, okay, if I'm going to die in the next few moments, then I know exactly where I'm going to spend eternity. I can't lose if heaven is what's waiting for me on
That's
the
right.
other side of the
Already
battlefield.
won.
Then
Yeah.
I'm good. So
I'm good.
bring it on.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
as a leader, as a combat leader with men that had just been killed around me and men that were looking to me, I kept thinking, God, I don't want to cost another one of my men their lives,
Right.
and certainly don't want to do anything stupid.
Yeah.
I don't want to screw this up. So whatever I do next, I don't want to cost somebody their life unnecessarily. We all might get killed in the next few moments. Can't
right.
do anything to stop that, but I don't want to cost somebody their life unnecessarily. The answer to your question, though, is I think when people see that, it's so rare and it's so real that it's undeniable. Like, okay, what I just saw from that guy, what I just heard in his voice, that doesn't make sense. Because the human reaction is protect yourself at all costs.
Right.
And this guy's just going out there with what seems like I'm fearless. I really wasn't. I was terrified, but I was also, I had this rock solid view of where I was going to spend eternity. So one of my messages to men for the rest of my life is going to be, men, if you want to be the kind of guy who can handle anything that life throws at you, you got to nail it down with Jesus Christ. And if you don't do that, life is one of these days going to throw a curveball that you can't hit.